Okay, let's look at number 15 from the calculus book today. And this is from section 2.2. And again, we're going to be evaluating a difference quotient in the format of f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. And in this one, we're working on f of x equals 1 over x, okay? And this is inverse variation. It's a rectangular hyperbola. It's rotated on a 45-degree axis here. But for this problem, we're going to take the f of x that equals 1 over x and evaluate the difference quotient in the format of f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. Okay, let's get to work. So the first step is we are going to plug in the format f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So in place of the x in our function f of x, we're going to replace it with x plus h for the first part of the difference quotient. Then we're going to subtract the function as is, the 1 over x, and don't forget we're dividing everything by h. Okay, in this one we've got fractions in the numerator here, so we are going to have to combine like terms in the numerator, and we're going to do that by adding those fractions together. So the first fraction in the numerator, we need to multiply by an x over x. And again, 1 is the multiplicative identity, so we can multiply that by any number, and we've got that number unchanged. Okay, next we've got to multiply the second fraction in the numerator by x plus h over x plus h. That way we'll have a common denominator of x times x plus h, and that'll be in the numerator of this format of the difference quotient. Okay, so our algebra continued. We've got x times x plus h minus 1 over x, and that's times x plus h over that x plus h. All right, so in our numerator then, and again this is all over h, so in our numerator then we do have the common denominator of x times x plus h. Okay, so from there then we're going to make sure we distribute this negative sign. Okay, and again, one of the most common mistakes in the difference quotient of this format. So I've got an x minus h, and that's distributing the negative sign over the x and over the h. Then our denominator here is x times x plus h. And remember, this whole thing is over h. And again, that's by design of this difference quotient. Okay, so remember when we're dividing by a number like h, that's what h represented. It is a variable, but it is a number. Okay, this is h over 1. Okay, so if we're going to divide by the fraction, it's the same as multiplying by the fraction's reciprocal. So dividing by h is the same thing as having to multiply by 1 over h, which means that it's going to have the effect of putting this h in this denominator with the x times the x plus h. Okay, so that means that I'm just going to recopy the steps. I'll have x minus h in the numerator. Now I have a complete fraction with the x times the x plus h times h. And again, that's multiplying by 1 over h. Okay, so now in our numerator, once we have this complete fraction, everything that doesn't have an h in it should cancel out, and it does. X minus x, those are gone. So I'm left with opposite h over x times x plus h times h. Now this h down here, again, we need to cancel it, okay, and it works out nicely. The h and the h cancel. Don't forget about this negative sign, because we do have a -1 left on the numerator here. I'm going to draw an arrow, continue up here. Okay, so I've got -1 then over x times x plus h. because again, that h in the denominator has been canceled. Okay, now that is a legitimate answer right here. However, the textbook probably has -1 over x squared plus xh. Okay, but either one of those would suffice as an answer. Obviously, we can distribute the x over the x plus h to get the x squared plus xh. Don't forget about the negative sign in the numerator here. Okay, and we've evaluated the difference quotient of this format, f of x plus h minus f of x, for the function 1 over x. Okay, and that's the difference quotient. Okay.